Hey, how's it going everyone, and welcome back to Should You Buy. Today we are going to be discussing and reviewing the original Watch Dogs that released in 2014, and with Watch Dogs Legion releasing just a few days ago, I figured now would be the right time to revisit the game that started it all. And if you were hoping for a Watch Dogs Legion review, don't worry, that is on the way and will be out very soon. Anyways, for the past week I played and completed Watch Dogs, and I'm going to go over the game and give you guys my honest opinion on it, and let you guys know if it's worth your money in 2020. The story of Watch Dogs was really unexpected, but in a good way. I have to admit, I was not going in with many expectations about the story, considering how shallow the story from Watch Dogs 2 was, but this genuinely surprised me. From the start, it is set up with a dark and malicious tone after our main character, Aiden Pierce, fails in a heist, which then leads to a bounty on his head and the death of his 6-year-old niece. This emotional and plain out sad premise makes you instantly feel bad for Aiden and his family. The most pleasant surprise of this story, however, is in fact the protagonist, Aiden Pierce. Because of this sad intro and guilt Aiden feels, it is what allows us, the audience, to really connect with him. Aiden's main motivations throughout the story is to avenge his niece Lena and protect what's left of his family at all costs, and this makes him very relatable. The idea of more of Aiden's family getting killed is what sends him on a dark and dangerous path and forces him into becoming a ruthless and hardened killer. And while many games often screw this up by making the main character become a criminal or unlikable, Watch Dogs is able to keep Aiden as a likable character because you know that everything he does is for his family and each decision he makes is for them. Aiden's internal struggle is what made him such an easy character to become hooked on and invested in and really care about. The game makes you feel like you're close to Aiden, and whenever he wins, you win, and whenever he loses, you feel that emotion. Aiden also has some amazing character development and changes a lot during the story. I won't say how because I don't want to spoil, but it is really cool to see. The supporting cast in this game is also great. You obviously have Aiden's sister Nikki and his nephew Jackson, along with his partner Clara. Aiden is really close to a lot of the side characters, and they are really all that keeps him going during the entirety of the story. Now, Watch Dogs doesn't necessarily have one antagonist. There are multiple large antagonists that Aiden kinda has to deal with all at once, and it was a cool approach as opposed to most games where there is just one big bad. Another thing I found to be great with the story was how unpredictable it was. There's a lot you don't see coming, and some surprises left me pretty speechless. The ending, not to spoil obviously, I found really good, and it's heavy and does a great job of making it feel like the end of a very long journey, and it left me with a satisfying taste in my mouth. The gameplay doesn't necessarily warrant the same praise I gave the story, however. The combat is very simple. It's just a lot of cover-based third-person shooting that gets repetitive and old as the game progresses, and there isn't much unique about it. The weapons are poor as well. There's not a huge selection or variety to all the weapons, and there is no weapon customization, which leaves out a lot of the specialization and uniqueness a lot of other games have like this. The stealth is also quite simple, but is something I personally really enjoyed. The staff takedowns looked pretty sick, and I liked the Hitman style kills with the silenced pistol. It made me feel like a true assassin, and the stealth felt very satisfying and hardly got old for me. It also helps when you can do things like hack cameras and rig the guards' equipment and explosives to get creative stealth kills. You can also do things like disable their ability to call reinforcements, making the stealth feel a lot more skill based and not just point and shoot. Now, the hacking is fun, but it isn't terribly in depth, and you can't do as much with it as you can in the sequels. But there's still a lot of fun things you can do, like cause blackouts or erase bridges that make the world feel malleable. The driving in Watch Dogs is good. Handling and turning takes some skill, which makes it more fun, having to know and practice when to use brakes or drift to make turns without crashing and things like that. And one thing that does kind of suck though is that you can't shoot while driving, so it makes fighting other enemies and vehicles a lot more annoying and more dragged out. However, with that said, I loved the vehicle takedowns. The slow motion camera looked really sick and added flavor to car chases and actually made them pretty enjoyable and thrilling, like it was from the movies. Like I mentioned earlier, there is unfortunately no gun customization, but there are a few clothing customizations you can make to Aiden's outfit that look pretty sweet, so that was nice to have. Now, the mission structure is pretty mixed for me. The main quest I feel did a good enough job of introducing a good variety of things to to do, even if it is just mostly stealth sequences and hacking puzzles most of the time. I liked the hacking puzzles in Watch Dogs 2, but in this game I think they were included a bit too much and they really started to annoy me later in the game. The side missions, which I would really call them more side activities because they're all really short and very repetitive. You have your fixer contracts, gang hideouts, and exclusive contracts. The fixer contracts and gang hideouts are fun, but it does get boring and repetitive after a while, and I didn't even bother doing them after hours into the game. The exclusive contracts for DedSec you run were a lot better and had some stories connected to them, so they were a lot more engaging and fun to participate in. I did like having to search for possible criminals and having to stop them before they can act, but it does get old pretty fast as well. Now I'm sure you've heard this before, but a major criticism of the Watch Dogs series, and this game in particular, is that it is very similar to GTA. And yes, the similarities are definitely there in Watch Dogs with the combat, driving, and notoriety system, but is having it be similar to GTA really such a bad thing? I mean, hey, I like GTA, and I think Watch Dogs does a good job of taking a lot of those beloved features of GTA and puts a unique spin on it with the hacking and stealth and all that good old Watch Dogs flavor. Although if Watch Dogs could somehow make its own version of GTA Online, I think that would be pretty sick. The game does have online modes, but they are very small and limited, and the servers weren't very populated. And the story missions aren't playable in co-op, so this game is really more geared for the single players. Watch Dogs takes place in the beautiful city of Chicago. Like each Watch Dogs game thus far, the game does a great job of filling the city with life and really immersing you in this hacker's playground. There's plenty of things to hack in the city, like traffic lights, steam pipes, power grids, ramps, bridges, etc. The world has a really nice day and night cycle that shows you the city in a different light, and there are also some fantastic weather effects. The rain and how it floods the streets and drenches the vehicles, messing with the road conditions, is fantastic, and it just adds to the immersion. Now, I am kind of biased towards this game's world because I am from Chicago, and it really does remind me of it. The inner city is great. It's extremely accurate, and buildings like the John Hancock and Willis Tower, which are some of the tallest buildings in the US, are easily identifiable and scream Chicago. However, the outer city, to put it simply, is completely off. I've been in the outer areas of Chicago and it looks nothing like how it does in the game. In real life, it's a lot of factories, industrial buildings, and some rural towns. On the game, the outside consists of these big green hills and forests with fancy suburbs, which is the complete opposite of what it actually is. Also, I was disappointed that Lake Michigan was left out because it is a very big destination for the city and it hosts a lot of beaches and events that were not present in Watch Dogs. Overall though, if we are just looking at the city of Chicago itself, I think they did a pretty good job, and I had a very familiar sense while driving on the streets, which is something I was really hoping to feel while playing the game. Like I said though, I think the setting was perfect and I loved how it was filled with lots of civilian NPCs. It added to the life and scale of the world, and it was a joy to explore and play around in. In terms of graphics, this game is alright. It certainly isn't great and may not work for those of you with high standards in graphics, but it still looks good enough for me at least. I was pretty surprised at the quality of the graphics because compared to other Ubisoft games from 2014 like Far Cry 4 and Assassin's Creed Unity, Watch Dogs definitely got the shorter end of the stick there. Performance was a little concerning as well. With my RTX 2070 Super and i5 9600K at 1440p on ultra graphics, I was averaging around 80 to 100 FPS, which sounds fine, but I run much better frame rates in Unity and Far Cry 4, so I'm not sure why Watch Dogs was having worse performance than those games, and that could be a bigger problem if you have a lower end PC. Obviously, if you're playing to get the game on console, then none of that matters to you. Another thing worth mentioning is this game does have its fair share of bugs. The NPCs could be really glitchy in combat, and those missions where you have to follow or protect NPCs. I also got this one game-breaking glitch during a story that everyone gets on PC, and I actually had to spend about 30 minutes researching just to find a fix, which is annoying to deal with, especially when the game is 6 years old and comes from a company as big as Ubisoft. Watch Dogs has an emotionally captivating story, a great in-depth protagonist, solid antagonist, an immersive and a lively world with fun hacking abilities. However, it does have simple combat, some okay graphics, and a few game-breaking glitches. So Watch Dogs receives my overall score of an 8 out of 10, and I would recommend buying it in 2020. The game isn't perfect by any means, but the story, characters, and world building is fantastic and is more than enough to satisfy single-player enthusiasts release in 2020. Not to mention the game is always available for a steal of a price, so you should be able to buy it and enjoy it with paying next to nothing for it. I did play the game on PC, but I'm sure it's just as enjoyable on console as it was for me on PC. It's interesting to compare this game to Watch Dogs 2 and Watch Dogs Legion to see how the series has kind of changed direction, because this game is really the only Watch Dogs of its kind. The other games put much more emphasis on lighter tones and more online and open world activities as opposed to a story focused narrative, which isn't bad, it just depends which one you prefer. If you want to see which game is better between Watch Dogs versus Watch Dogs 2, I will likely start working on that soon, and I'm also in the middle of playing Watch Dogs Legion, so expect a review on that soon as well. If you enjoyed the video, I would really appreciate it if you dropped a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. We are almost already at 6K, which is crazy because it feels like we just hit 5K, so thank you so much for the insane support lately. If you want to play any of the Watch Dogs games with me and others, or discuss any game, or if you just want to ask me questions really, feel free to join my Discord, the link is in the description. Other than that, thank you all for watching and have a great day, Assassins.